Welcome back to another new map review. Thanks for stopping by on your travels. Totenreich has been out for a little bit now, and I've had some time to shuffle through my thoughts and organize this little review here. I am happy that for the first time I was able to live stream on launch day of a map and get my hands on it alongside anyone who wished to join. Huge shout out to Brave Lotus, who stuck around for nearly the entire 8-hour stream and was there being an informant for me and my teammate on Easter egg steps as we played. We weren't hunting a world's first or anything because I never have been much of a hunter, but it was great to finally be in the earlier stages of an Easter egg solve, so I was able to avoid all spoilers on the boss fight and the cutscene, which worked great because those aspects were really cool. We will talk more about that later, but for now let's begin at the top and talk about what Totenreich all did right and some of the things that weren't so great. The massive foot of Dravakar lifts and heads off into the distance as he plunges into the cold depths. Now, it is just you and the zombies left to explore this map, which is certainly a large map. Perhaps not as big as I expected, though. There is a bit of dead space here, which would be one of my small complaints. You look at the TAC map and you can see how there really isn't that much playable space. You compare the playable space of Ashes and this map, and it's likely pretty similar. The overall size is of course going to go to Ashes, but the space that you actually play in, to my estimation, is probably roughly similar. This isn't an issue, but it is quite easy to see where there are a few spaces that it could have been a little bigger. There recently has been a fascination in this type of layout configuration though. Treyarch has been using it repeatedly, one big loop around the map with a central hub. The Tomb, Ashes of the Damned, Astrum Alorm, and now Totenreich have had this similar format to them. This isn't an issue most times, but I found this pattern interesting and it came back again here. I do appreciate how many ziplines there are, as it helps make things a little smoother going around the map and using that center area as a hub. So far, I know it sounds like I'm being a little negative about the map, but that isn't my intent. These are not major issues, we just so happen to be starting at the basic layout, and these are my thoughts on it. When it comes to the visuals of the map, they're fantastic. I love me a snowy map, and this here fits the bill. I also love the Nordic influence, and it ties in great to the overall snowy idea of the map, as it is pretty common, at least for me, to associate Nordic ideas and cold and winter. It looks great, and I think the only thing that could have helped was even a little element of shifting weather outside of just the freeze rounds. Visually, this map is fantastic, and still shares some elements like hints of the skybox to remind you that this is still the Dark Ether, but it isn't the same exact visual style as everything else to a T. I also love going up into the Origins robot and being able to look out over the whole map. It is a nice touch that I enjoy. I can't say I am surprised that Dravakar isn't a roaming entity, considering how much more fluent he can move compared to something like a robot in ye olde Origins. You could tell yourself back then that those robots didn't pay attention to you, as they were designed to cross the space and go towards the rest of the battle. We just happened to be in their path. Here in Totenreich, our whole goal is to be here and free Dravakar, and his whole goal is to beat the snot out of us. If he were walking around the map and ignoring us the whole time, it just wouldn't make much sense. He should easily be able to wipe us out underfoot. I think they made the right call to not have him as a roaming entity. We made plenty of pokes at Origins, but we didn't need to approach Carbon Copy, and this was a logical place to deviate. Plus, the times he does show up in the map are absolutely sick, so it works to hype up those few times where he does show up. Oh yeah, also, the music is absolutely fire in this map, but what is new when it comes to zombies? Let's move off of these things and shift into, let's see. Well, I suppose we should do as we do, and talk about the power and Pack-a-Punch. Power is straightforward. Fix electrical boxes, and power is yours. For Pack-a-Punch, you have to do the first Frost round and get a key card to a control room where you can grab a Glock drop controller, and you calibrate it in the middle of the map. Doing so does two things. One, it gives you the Pack-a-Punch, and two, it gives you access to the map-unique score streak, the Glock Drop, which is great to see map-specific items when we get them, so gold star to you, Treyarch. For the Pack-a-Punch side, this is a great way to kill two birds with one stone. We get Pack-a-Punch and also get a taste of how to use the new streak, plus you're given one for free to use the streak after, which is helpful as it's required for the Easter egg later. GG's Treyarch, you done did good here with getting players familiar with the map. Now I have options. Do I talk about the new enemies or do I talk about the Wonder Weapon? Let me see. I think I'll go with the enemies, as once I start talking about the Wonder Weapon, we might as well keep chugging right along through the Easter egg after it. So we have a new dog round type enemy in the Frost Zombies. They themselves are not a major threat. It is the fact that the map freezes if you're outside and slows you way down that is the threat. They exploit that fact and mess you up if you're caught out there. Well, at least for me, because I managed to die in the first Frost round in my first 3 matches, which is impressive in all the wrong ways. Solid enemy, and they're a good selection because they perfectly blend into the map style. Also perfectly blending in is the Necropincer, who was a surprise to me as they left him as a weaker special enemy instead of an elite, which makes him weaker but also more frequent. That also means there is no elite in this map, which I am okay with because it is something I have been asking for. I don't want every map to not have an elite, but it is nice to have a break from them from time to time, which we had in Paradox as well as now in Totenreich. How about the Necropincer himself? Is he fun to engage with? I'd say yes. He looks great, sounds great, and is a threat all the while he doesn't completely ruin your game flow when he shows up. Between the Frost Zombies and the Necropincer, these are probably my favorite enemies in a map within Black Ops 6 or 7. It seems like Treyarch might be getting better at balancing these specials and elites as time goes on, so I hope that continues for the last 2 maps of Black Ops 7. Another gold star for Treyarch. Quick note I want to mention is the addition of ultra rarity weapons in the mystery box. I was able to get the Ultra MP40 twice while in standard, and I have to say that this is a fantastic idea, just as I was expecting it to be after they announced it. For standard, you have a cap on your weapons at legendary rarity, which limits your power. In Cursed, if you play any level of Cursed, that health cap is roughly doubled. By getting ultra rarity and pack tier 4, you can get back to roughly the same ratio of power versus health cap as you see in standard. This kind of makes the ultra rarity and pack-a-punch tier 4 not feel cool anymore, as they aren't actually stronger than your max and standard once you check the ratio. Back to ultra rarity and standard, this is a way to actually get a tiny push of power over the standard health cap that you can't get otherwise. This is an excellent choice, and it does give me more reason to go hit the box, as I want this weapon because it will be stronger than almost anything else I can get my hands on. I think this decision was a great choice, plus it is a nice way to get legacy weapons in a different way than we've seen before. Oh, and one more thing, sorry I keep delaying the Wonder Weapon talk, we have the addition of the new Wildfire field upgrade, and trust me, this will be quick. It sucks shit. I had expected something like combining the tornado to bring in zombies and extra damage the closer zombies are would be a good thing, but it's really just not. It does not actually pull many zombies, and as you run around you continue to do pulses on your own, but those aren't very strong either, so you leave the tornado, which isn't very strong by itself, so you can't really just stand by it and be protected by it, and then no zombies are really going near the tornado anymore, so you're just running around with weak pulses of fire. Yet again, it is an offensive field upgrade, and under the current charging systems of Black Ops 7, I have no reason to use this, as it will only get worse to charge the more I use it for its intended purpose, which is to attack. I definitely have no reason to use it if it sucks, so yeah, not a big fan of this one. I also don't care for them hiding it behind the weekly challenges. A main part of the field upgrade is to be used to fight off the cold, and then the map drops and you won't even be able to use it right away unless you went out of your way to do endgame or multiplayer challenges first. I just don't know why they bothered. Just give it to people so they can find out it isn't worth their time and go right back to Aether Shroud or Frenzied Guard. Back to it though, let's move on. It is so over because it's time to talk about the Wonder Weapon, which means the Easter egg will be coming after, so strap in. This is the most important section of a map to me. It all comes down to the Wonder Weapon, Easter egg, and boss fight to form my opinion on a map, so let's get down to it. The Jotun Star is quite the wonder weapon, and I have many things to say about it, so let's get to acquiring it, and then we'll talk about it as a weapon. There is a little parkour jump to do at the ship to get the chain, and while it is a little tricky, you'll get it quickly and be moving on. Then we have to grab a can of chili, which was quite odd to me when I first saw that, but it is to lure out a Xursa, which you have to eliminate. I've said before that I have no issues with an enemy coming back if it is used for a specific Easter egg step, not within the normal gameplay of the map. And that is still true here. I don't have an issue with the Xursa being here. I just think it's a little bit odd that the lantern is in it. Like, did it somehow one big gulp take down this whole ass lantern, or was it using it as a suppository? That's not an important question by any means, but I can't stop wondering. Anyway, now with the chain and the lantern, we can fix a door, which will open up and reveal an area a lot like the Zetsubo no Shima Skull of Non-Stopwave room, which I like. I also really like the concept of these little constellations floating around the room that you have to grab in a certain order. Now, I said I like the concept, but I am not much of a fan of the execution. I have done this step numerous times at this point, and I still do not really look forward to this part. The templates you see in the middle of the room are often incomplete and hard to tell exactly what they're meant to be, considering how many different constellations there are. You spend time trying to decipher what you're even looking at, and by the time you think you might know, you start to scan the room and see there aren't many floating around, so you wait and they pop in. You try scanning the 4 walls quickly, but don't see it until the last second and it goes off the wall. You'd expect it to flow through and show up again on the next segment of the wall, but it doesn't. If you are given very simple and obvious symbols, this can go pretty quick. But start getting ones that look real similar to another and it is hard to decide which one you were supposed to get because again, your template isn't fully showing, so you have to make your best guess, which won't always be right. I find this part to be, again, a great concept, but rather frustrating in execution. Maybe after 30 plus runs, I'll start to memorize that these 3 disjointed lines that look like nothing are actually this hyper-specific symbol, and then it'll be really easy. But for now, I am not the biggest fan of this step. However, when normally this would be it for a Wonder Weapon quest, Totenreich tells you there is more, and it slaps you with Peak. Follow Astrid and fill up souls. Do that again, and suddenly it's like you're doing the Taken King raid in Destiny as you hop along these platforms to the lighthouse. Once there, Dravacar pops up out of the water and looms over you as you do a sick parkour wall jumping segment. All of this is so sick and totally redeems the constellation step. All of my struggle doing that step fades away as soon as these platforms spawn in and I get to do this part. This kind of Wonder Weapon quest is the thing that I would want to do time and time again, even if I didn't really want the Wonder Weapon. It is simply too fun to ignore and I love this. Now, with the weapon in hand, we have some studying to do because the fall off of this weapon deserves research. It is astounding. First though, let's talk about looks and attacks. Visually, fan-freaking-tastic. This thing is gorgeous, amazing design, and it is a melee wonder weapon that has a small ability to cleave. After a sequence of attacks, you will do a short forward blast to help clear some zombies in front. Then, after you get enough kills, you can use the alternate attack as a true ranged attack, which does an AoE blast. Strangely, this doesn't leave a fire pool like I would have expected, so it is a little underwhelming. This weapon also has a co-op ability that will chain between people also using the lantern for another level of attack. Great concept again to add on top of the base fundamentals. At first, this wonder weapon is strong and fun. A perfect combo. Let me give you a reference. At round 20, with just melee macchiato and no pack-a-punch, the Jotun Star will be able to one-shot normal enemies. This is our starting point because, as we know, pack-a-punch is a strong thing that really increases our weapon strength, right? Well, yeah, usually, but here it just doesn't seem to happen much. Fast forward only to round 41, and now, with your wonder weapon at pack-a-punch tier 3, it can't even one-shot normal enemies anymore. What the hell happened? Only 20 rounds ago, with no pack-a-punch, this thing was destroying, and now it's already being outpaced by the growing health cap while it's triple packed? That's depressing and takes the wind out of this thing's sails. I don't know what it is with Black Ops 7, but Treyarch is actually afraid of making good wonder weapons. They scared themselves after the Ice Staff and, well, all of Cold War. I love the design of the wonder weapon, but when you use it for round 41 plus and it's already not going to be very helpful, that is disappointing, and it's a terrible turn of events that I didn't see coming because it was so strong for so long, and then out of nowhere it feels like it dies off and it really isn't that viable anymore because of how much more careful you need to be. I don't want every wonder weapon to shred zombies without a thought, but I want them to be good beyond round 40, please. It leaves it in an awkward spot because I'm not a huge high round person, so I don't care if I can sleep my way to round 200 with it, but I'd like to be able to use it longer than my normal weapons. For most weapons not called the 1911, they are falling off at this point, so I'd like to use the wonder weapon a little longer than that. So looks, design, sound, attack type, it's all great there. But then with the strength, it fools you into thinking it's way stronger before going into a coma. I still think this is a fantastic wonder weapon, but I strongly believe it needs a buff. And it deserves a buff. Wow, that was a lot. So let's move on and talk about the Easter egg. After a shockingly short solve, we are left with what I consider to be a great Easter egg. Unfortunately, I was bugged out of my first run and was forced to restart, which was not cool. And it seemed to me, at least, this was one of the more buggy releases recently. Not sure if that's, really true, but it was my experience and some of the impression I got from the community. Anyway, our objective is to get Tyr, the Origins robot, back up and running to help us defeat Dravacar. We pop open crates with a crowbar to get a flak gun round. This is another ZNS type thing, and we fire it at the robot head and spawn, which gives us a transmitter. This goes into tier where we get a Morse code signal to enter into a console. This will calibrate the missile system and give us our second map specific streak. What the fuck is happening? That is sick, and while this thing isn't even that strong, especially for the cost and the work to unlock it, it is great that they added some map specific items. More of this is a good thing, and it gives maps different things in them and they stand out because of it. Anyway, we have to collect some uranium to power up tier, so we go fishing and ravager hunting. We break into a secret room. Let's fucking go, I love secret rooms. We throw some specific heads together to make a concoction. Shout out to my friend Matt, who actually did figure out on his own how to decipher what heads were needed for this while we played our first run. Now we get to do some straight up Elder Scrolls lockpicking, which is funny and awesome. Then the map specific Glock drop comes into play as we use that and charge it up fully, where it will drop us our last uranium piece. Then we are hit with the claw machine step, where you arrange the uranium before getting a battery. I think it is great to see such varied steps all throughout the Easter egg, and it was great through this point. Charge the battery and watch as Titans clash when Dravikar comes back to get lasered in the face. Now we're almost there. You have to cook some meat, set off a stone in the church, and hunt down these symbols before it's boss time. This was not a guide, which is why I burned through these steps so fast, but yeah, this is a great Easter egg that I do truly enjoy doing. I have the internal debate waging in my mind still, where I'm asking myself, do I like this Easter egg, or Ashes, or Paradox more? And I honestly don't have an answer. Each of these three are strong for very different reasons, and for me it is a great thing because that means Black Ops 7 is stuffed with really great Easter eggs, and I'm all about it. Guess freaking what? Treyarch, you get another gold star. I love how this so naturally shakes out that the end of the map is of course the boss fight, and spoiler alert, it is fire! Get dropped from the sky, and in walks Dravikar, and right behind him walks Tyr, and the two giants clash as you wait for them to lock in and expose weak spots on Dravikar. The scale, the spectacle, the visuals, everything here is so peak. This whole first phase of the fight feels like a fever dream of sick moments that you would have never expected to see in zombies. At the end of the first phase, Dravikar gains the advantage over Tyr and beats him into the ground, which means it's just you and him now. He walks off like a cool guy would and leaves you with his floating, spinning, fucking bullshit heads. Alright, I love this fight, but this part is obnoxious. These heads have a very finicky time getting triggered to drop into being vulnerable. Wait till they have red eyes, get closer, hit them with a charged Jotun shot in the mouth. That has been my best and most consistent strategy, but even that is often not working, or randomly something else will work. It just gets so annoying that sometimes I do A and the enemy is dropped, and then the next time I also do A, nothing happens. Sometimes I do A and nothing happens, then I do B and then it does work, and I'm like, well, what is the actual method here? It needs to be more consistent because as it is, I spend most of my time in this fight fucking around with these stupid floating heads instead of fighting the actual sick boss out there. The hitbox needs to have better hit registration. Even though you can use equipment on the heads, it has the same issue of that inconsistency. So now, when Dravikar does come back, he starts hurling runes at you, and good grief, he is an earthbender. So many rocks are flying at you as you desperately hide and try to sneak in some damage. This format is the rest of the fight, between damaging the boss and then dealing with the floating heads between phases. That is until the final stand, where you are locked into the middle of the arena under heavy fire from rocks as you race to finish the fight. Upon getting Dravikar weak enough, Tyr makes his glorious return to the fight and finishes the job by punching right through Dravikar like Homelander to Noir. All told, this boss fight is absolutely sick and easily one of the best in zombies, hands down. This nailed the spectacle, the challenge, and the fun across the board. Ending that fight gives you the cutscene where Dravikar explains a little more about the situation, and it does actually seem that we may still fight the Warden in Black Ops 7. I was undecided on if I thought they would go this route or not. I was starting to feel that they were going to drag out the Warden villain arc into future games, but it does quite seem that that won't be the case, which I'm all for. If there were ever a time to start winding this story down, it is now. We have a break from zombies coming up, and we truly don't have any idea what is in store for the future. This is a great time to bring this to a close and then walk off into the unknown with players wondering what is next. What will narratively be next, and what will be next gameplay-wise? We had the classic era for many years, and now we've had the modern era for many years. Is the next time we see zombies going to be more of one of those? Will it be a mix? Will it be something totally new? All of the possibilities are on the table, especially if we do end up dealing with the Warden yet in Black Ops 7, which seems to be growing more and more possible yet. Either way, great cutscene, and I am ready to see what this map of fire will be all about. Holy crap, we just totened our Reichs so hard. I dumped a ton of time into this map right off the rip, and it continues to be fun. This was my biggest release day just due to being able to stream and getting into the map so quickly. I hope I'm able to do it again for the last 2 maps that drop. If all works out as well, it should be a fun time. But I suppose this is the part of the video where I should bring it all together to my final thoughts. So what are my final thoughts? I'm not trying to make this seem all over the place, but it is complicated. There are moments here where the map is truly peak, but I find in many of those cases, those moments have a flip side that brings it down just a little bit. I am being nitpicky because it is hard to find things fully wrong with the map. It is only these small things that are of note in my books, and that's a great thing for the map because it is harder to find things that I can point out as frustrating or map ruining. Enemies are great and the wonder weapon is great. I don't find there to be any complications there. The main two that do have complications are with the wonder weapon and the boss fight. The wonder weapon is great in design and most of its acquisition is great too, especially highlighting the parkour step, which is masterful. But the constellations are a bit annoying and the quickly middling damage makes it not quite as amazing as it could be. The boss fight is one of the best in Zombies, and I think it safely would be the best in Zombies if it weren't for those stupid heads breaking the flow of the boss battle, all because they're inconsistent. Depending on what part of the map I'm talking about, I could easily put it in S tier alongside Ashes of the Damned and other maps from the past. Then some of the other parts come up, and I'm reminded of them, which brings it down a little bit to like an A. So either way you look at it, I love this map. It is so damn fun and cool. I think a chunk of this does come down to expectations being so high. I was fully ready for this map to blow me away, and again at times it absolutely does. But those small moments that disappoint me feel probably a lot bigger right now because it's so fresh. If I had to guess, this map will slide up my rankings over time once things settle in the future. For now, I am going to leave it as right around a high A today, just for the sake of putting it somewhere for reference, but don't be surprised if it's higher one day. I can absolutely see the path for it to get there. That just about does it though. Now we can feast on this map for a while until the next one. I can tell that this is going to be a longer review as the script has gotten quite long too, so hopefully you enjoyed the long session of chatting about Totenreich. What have you thought about the map so far? Have you taken on the boss? Where would you place it in a ranking? Let me know in the comments below. I look forward to reading those. As I previously mentioned in posts and comments, but not in a video directly, I have a busy May ahead of me, so my current rate of putting out videos is likely going to slow down a little bit as I handle some things outside of the gaming and YouTube world. I will be back as soon as I can though. For now, enjoy Totenreich and keep slaying zombies for me. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.